Welcome back to Chaotic Creatives, the show about embracing the chaos that comes from living a creative life.
We are your hosts, two self-proclaimed chaotic creative gals. I am Lauren Hom, better known as Hom Sweet Hom on the internet. I am a designer, lettering artist, muralist, and chef.
Yay!
She's saying yay because I usually say most recently chef.
Yeah, I just wanted her to claim it.
And I claimed it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for letting me soft bully. And I'm Rachael Renee. I am an artist, a creativity coach, and your internet hype gal. And today we are answering your questions. Thank you for submitting them. The last time that we did a Q&A session, we gabbed for so long answering your questions that it ended up being 2 episodes. So we'll see what today brings.
I bet it's going to be 2.
I think
put
so
money on it.
Yeah. I think we could do most things. Like, we had to force ourselves to stop a lot of times. So yeah, long-winded.
Yeah.
We're not short-form content girlies.
No. Did I already talk about how I almost had a meltdown trying to film TikToks?
No, tell me.
After my Skillshare shoot a couple years ago.
Tell me. No, you did not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have a hard time as a millennial recording short-form content. Just like chill, short-form, just like get on camera. Especially when it's educational, because I feel like I'm doing my audience a disservice if I'm too brief about something without explaining, adding a little nuance.
We love nuance.
Yeah. And so I shot a Skillshare class a couple years ago about how to create a brief for yourself, like a container, like we've talked about in this podcast, for a passion project. And at the end of this 2-day shoot, they bring on a producer and they're like, okay, we just want to grab a couple quick TikToks. And I was like, no problem. In hindsight, I was exhausted, and she was kind of prompting me with some questions to record 15 to 20 second clips. And I just could not do it. I almost cried.
I feel like I wouldn't be able to either. I mean, I told you right before we started recording, but I am feeling quite agitated right now. And especially yesterday I was. And I tried to record a video talking about it. And I definitely do multiple stories, and I'll give myself 5 to 8 minutes to tell a story on Instagram stories. But then I started talking and I literally recorded 40 videos of me starting. And there's so many of me being like, ugh, or oh my God. And so last night after I did that, I cut them all together, all of the eye rolls and the, okay. I don't know what I'll do with them, but I did that. Anyway, I cannot for the life of me do a 1-minute explanation of something. A minute is impossible to think about, let alone 15 seconds.
Yeah. I think that knowing how to be concise and brief to get to the point is helpful in an internet age.
Yeah.
But it's not the hard and fast rule that everything you have to make has to be that way. If that's just not your thing, we're obviously publishing a long form podcast. This is on YouTube.
Yeah.
You kind of have to go where the kind of content you produce fits in.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, we post reels, we can do short form content, but it's usually cut down from other longer bits. It's not created with the intention to be 15 or 20 seconds
long.
I
think, we're both educators, so we create course content and explain the nuance and explain the perspective. And I feel like my whole thing is all about perspective shifts and mindset stuff. So it's hard to be okay, just play. And that's it. You have to get people to think in a different way. And it's hard to do in shorter format. So anyway, speaking of shorter format, let's actually get to the point.
Thank you for submitting your questions.
Yes.
We've written them down on pieces of paper to kind of go back and forth and ask each other. Can I start with one for you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So someone asked a question that I thought would be a really great fit for Rachael about how do you incorporate playfulness, aka sparkle, into your corporate job, full-time job?
Yeah, love that question. The outfit that I'm wearing today, in fact, is I came straight from work to record this. So style is one thing that is my favorite creative expression, whether at my corporate job or not. It's just something that I feel very drawn to. And I feel like that's one way to kind of not lose your identity in your corporate role. So finding outfits that feel like you, and like I work in a very traditional STEM environment. Like what I wore today is absurd to most people. Like people's eyes were like, "Oh," when I got in the elevator to get up to the floor today. But I feel like myself, and that's what's most important. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I can produce the best work and be the most engaged when I feel like myself. And so, yeah, clothes are my favorite way. If you're thinking about adding more sparkle to your corporate role in terms of something that's not kind of a visual representation
Mhm.
of yourself, I feel like how I speak at work is also something that maybe is more unique. I don't lean into technical jargon, even though I definitely could. I love to say words like gab and jazzed and hype. And I speak how I normally would speak, even when I'm talking about important corporate
Mhm.
things. And I think that that just makes me more human. It makes it easier for people to relate to what I'm talking about or for me to explain these complicated technical things. So just paying attention to what feels authentically you and not kind of masking that just for work.
Yeah, I think a lot of times as someone who worked in a corporate environment for a brief period of time at a traditional ad agency, I think I went in with this preconceived notion of how I had to act
Hmm.
in a environment like that. Like I was wearing blazers to work, even though I was working in the creative department of
Yeah.
an ad agency. I was like, this is what adults do. Like you're cosplaying basically
Yeah.
as a corporate worker. And I think a lot of that stuff holds us back. We're sure there are some things that are, workplace appropriate or inappropriate, but within reason, like some of the like you were saying, the ways we talk, if you want to loosen it up a little bit, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't impede getting the job done,
Hmm.
people generally want to feel comfortable and casual at work. Like I remember even talking with my dad years ago about how he's been with the same company for like 20 plus years, and he used to have to wear like a suit and tie to work. And over the last 20 years, they've slowly like chilled out their dress code policy where now my dad's wearing like khakis and Hawaiian shirts
Hell
to work.
yeah. Okay, dad.
Yeah. So corporate culture is always changing too.
Yeah. And I think in the age of, the internet and virtual meetings, and I do think that when so many of us went remote during the beginning of COVID, it gave other people a little bit more insight into us as humans and not as just employees.
Mm.
Like we saw
Yeah.
people's backgrounds, we saw people's kids interrupting, we saw their pets, and it humanized it and it like blurred the lines, which can be good and bad, I
Mhm.
think, between sort of like strict coworker, like I only know you in this capacity, to, oh my gosh, I can relate to you because like your kid is screaming in the background and my kid is too.
Yeah. Another way I wanted to approach this question too was in case you meant how do you incorporate more like playfulness and creativity into like the work you're doing at your
Mm.
corporate job. One thing that came to mind was in addition to like dressing how you want to dress, like if it's colorful, I think that's great. Um, like letting people know about the other creative work that you're doing in your workplace, which use your discernment, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I want to bring up the example of I have a student, I believe her name is Morgan, who took my mural class, and she works a full-time job, but because she was talking about painting murals and like, hey, I learned this new skill, she ended up getting commissioned by her full-time job to paint a mural in the office. And so I think you should be talking about all of your other creative hobbies or like planting those seeds in like your coworkers' minds. So if cool creative opportunities do come up, like maybe your day-to-day if you're making marketing materials as a graphic designer, it's not the most exciting. But if people know, like, hey, we have someone in house who can do a workshop or do murals or like anything creative, it would be ideal if you could be the go to person for that. And most companies would rather hire from the family
Yeah.
rather than like keeping it in the family, rather
Yeah.
than going to find like doing the labor of finding an outside contractor.
Totally.
So I think that it can be great to just, you know, casually mention the other creative stuff you're tinkering on. Outside of work.
You saying that reminded me that my boss hired me to do her wedding invitations.
Oh my
When I
gosh.
first started.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then also on the flip side of that, as someone who doesn't work in a creative field as my day job, sometimes people ask me for my creative opinion and then I get roped in. I mean, I should just say no, but I get roped into doing stuff like painting a mural, but for free. And that's not part of my job description. And it's actually detracting from the time that I can spend on my job. So I'm very cautious about doing that sort of like extra.
I think you have to kind of like suss out your workplace.
Yeah.
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 And if you have a manager who's like always asking you for extra unpaid stuff like that, then maybe not.
Totally.
But if
I think your advice is right. Like talk about the things that you're interested in. And I think even, you know, are you facilitating meetings? Do a funny icebreaker. Don't just ask people what they are. I tried to do that the other day and it got nixed. I tried to ask people like, what game show could you go on and win? Which is a very like neutral one. And then they were like, how about we talk about this? It's funny. But I think like even like at the lunch table or at the beginning of meetings, you know, you can use my silly questions, ask people within reason, you know, workplace appropriate. Some of them are not workplace appropriate. So again, use your discernment. But I think you can be like, practice being yourself.
Yeah.
Like, especially once you're established in the job, like I understand being fresh and new and wanting to like really impress with your work.
And your blazers.
And your blazers. Yeah, I did it too. I think there was the time too that we like were done with college where it was like, yeah, I can't wait to wear a blazer and jeans and my like platform sparkly high heel. I wore such high shoes to work. Absurd. Okay.
Hell yeah.
Be yourself. That's the advice. Okay. I guess let's follow up on that advice with how do you avoid being cringy when promoting yourself online?
Ooh, yeah, we really liked this question because I think the truth is everything, like something's going to be cringy to different people. And what I heard from this question was like, how do I avoid looking like an idiot in front of people that I want to look cool in front of?
Yeah.
And the answer is because your followers are people you know and don't know, and you can't calibrate for all of their opinions and preferences. You just have to post what you feel like posting and embrace or accept that some people will find it cringy. The same way that we've said this before, other people will think it's awesome, and some people will be like, not for me, or like, ooh. And hopefully they don't say it to you, but that is the like price of admission for sharing online is some people might not like it, but 99% of them are just going to scroll past it. So it's okay.
Yeah. And I think you have to be your own biggest fan. And if you feel that something is cringy, is it because you have some perceived like judgment coming from someone else? Like, are there people in your lives that are saying that what you're doing is cringy, or are you not allowing yourself to be the fullest version of yourself? Like I'm trying to word this while I'm sort of noodling on it. Like when I first started sharing my outfits on the internet, I was like, this is cringy of me posting every day of myself. Because I used to post like, oh, I feel valid in posting pictures when I'm on vacation or eating somewhere cooler with friends, but I can't possibly post pictures of myself every day, even though I wanted to. And the first step in overcoming that was admitting to myself that that's what I wanted. And so like whatever's cringy is you. Like I'm so cringy. Some people think that I'm so obnoxious. I'm sure. Some say it, some don't. And I just have to be so okay with being who I am and knowing that like I feel really good in what I'm wearing or what I'm posting or what I'm making. And like you said, like it's always going to be cringy to someone, and those just aren't our people. There was some really good advice from my business coach, Andy, that she shared recently about, are you posting for your friends and your family, or are you posting for your business? Because so many of us, when we first got Instagram, it was, it was social media. It was connecting with people and staying connected with those people. And so if I'm posting an outfit picture, but I know that somebody I went to college with is probably like, oh, what is she doing? And that's in the back of my head, I might be limiting myself instead of being like, I don't know any of these people that I'm posting to. And they are for sure my people. They're here because I'm posting. So maybe reevaluate kind of like who you're thinking about when you're creating your content.
Yeah. Hey, Lauren here. Want to add muralist to your ever-growing list of creative titles? Well, then you're in luck because this episode is brought to you by Mural Painting for Designers, my online class that teaches you how to plan, paint, and price murals of your very own. Gain the confidence to pick up a paintbrush, start adding murals to your portfolio now instead of someday, and start painting the large-scale artwork that you've always dreamed of doing. So head to homsweethom.com/classes or click on the link in the episode description to learn more. Okay, now back to the show. I mean, I've talked about this before, but like, I blocked my entire family on Instagram last year, and it was something I used to never, like, I never minded them following along, and then I just was like, again, navigating personal and professional relationships, I found myself doing exactly what you were talking about, where it's like, oh, what's my family gonna think? And I don't really like feeling that way. And it's not entirely their fault. Like, they're my family, they have opinions, whatever. But in order to create, you have to cultivate a container, like whatever tools you have available to you through a social media platform. You have to cultivate a container that allows you to post as freely as you can.
Yeah.
Like, it's never going to be 100% comfortable, but whether that means like restricting access to you, whether that means not answering comments. We talked about this in the social media episode. There was no roadmap of how you were supposed to use these platforms. And so there's a lot of things we're navigating there. And I think another important question I had when we got this question was like, cringy to who though? Right?
Yeah.
Like, we live in an online culture where there is seemingly like so much critique or like content that's like, here's the problem with this, or here's why like this is bad. And because we live in a culture of critique and so many people are making content about that, I think a lot of times something that you might like or something that like you might want to post, you're like, oh, but like I just watched the thing about how it's cringy. If you like it and you want to do it, like that, people can think it's cringy and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you'll ever be able to get over that feeling entirely. And if it makes anyone who's listening feel better, like, I don't know anyone who doesn't second guess some of their posts, or like when I'm about to upload a post, I'm like proofreading my caption, right? Like, we are posting to a like public audience where anyone could say anything. And most of the time they don't, but sometimes when they do, it feels extra bad. Like, I think tied into this question about feeling cringy about sales too, or is that a different question?
Yeah, when promoting yourself online. And then we also got the question how to share in a way that doesn't feel fake. So it's tangential.
Okay, because one thing I've encountered too in the last couple months is I had someone leave a comment on one of my posts about like, why do all of your posts, like, why are they selling me something? Like, why is there a sales pitch at the end of this carousel? And I like chuckled to myself because I'm like, because I'm running a business? Like,
because that's the point of this platform.
Like,
yeah.
I am pretty resolute at this point about like, some of your personal life will get mixed in there, but the main point of me personally being on Instagram is to promote my business and like hopefully be helpful to other creative people out there. But I am going to sell you stuff sometimes. And if that's a problem to you, then like you can leave.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I think it's different too, because like you never started as like a lifestyle influencer. And I think that how that type of content creation started was like, hey, we're buds. And like, look at this thing that I use. If you want to live like I do, buy this thing. And so it was like really sneaky sales
rather than explicit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I feel like that's what people are like, that's bad. Like, quit selling to me, at least in my opinion. Like, I don't feel as comfortable doing like affiliate codes or paid partnerships with certain brands anymore because it just feels like it's like sell, 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 buy shit, overconsumption. But what you're selling is education. It's not buy more shit you don't need. It's like, let me help you grow your creative business. And the goal of your Instagram is to share your creative work. It's not like, hey, you can live like me if you do this. Like,
I think,
does that make sense?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. I think a lot of like the gremlin in my brain was like, well, you can overconsume online education too.
Sure.
But yeah,
It's not harming the planet as much.
I completely understand. When I read that, I chuckled only because I see it. I've been trying to give everybody in general like a more generous read so I'm less agitated with strangers.
Yeah.
And I saw it more as like, oh, I think what this person might be frustrated about is just that anytime you log in to Instagram, everyone's selling you something. Yeah. And so it's not necessarily like this is not a me thing. It's being pointed at me right now, but like, it's like what I said in the social media episode. I am choosing to believe that everyone is coming on Instagram before they had their coffee.
Yeah, I think it's
tone.
like it could have been a last straw thing, right? Like
Totally.
they could have seen someone else posting about an offering, all week, and then they happened to see yours right after that, and we're like, enough is enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, I think some of like the marketing coaches that I follow are like, we feel like we are being obnoxious, or at least I do, when I'm talking about my offerings. And I know we've talked about like worthiness of offerings in previous episodes. And like that's something that I need to work on internally. Like my little gremlin is like, you can't charge for your work. But people want what we are creating. And I think you and I both put a lot of care into the things that we offer. And so it's one thing that we think we're being obnoxious, but like Instagram is so saturated that people don't even see our shit. So It's like you have to be your own biggest fan. You have to be your own biggest advocate, especially you work for yourself. Who's going to pay the bills if you don't market yourself? Like, It's not like, if we compare it to a big corporation who's doing all of these ad efforts, I guess, like has a huge marketing revenue. Like no one thinks twice about seeing a billboard or like seeing a commercial. They're just like, okay, yeah, it's part of the process. But when it's an individual, it's easier to target, like, quit selling to me. Like, okay, are you also writing to Nike and Rocket Mortgage and saying like, quit selling to me? Why'd you pay Jason Momoa to be a Rocket Mortgage?
Because he's so hot.
He's so hot, yeah. Where's he at? I've been asking a lot of like, where are they at? There's so many celebrities. There's so many people. Okay, before I go down a rabbit hole.
We did the Dennis Rodman rabbit hole this season. We're not going to do Jason Momoa rabbit hole.
I don't know enough about Jason Momoa.
Yeah, me either, other than that he's hot.
Yeah. Do you have any questions that are related to this before we move on to kind of a different topic?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
One question that we got that we wanted to discuss was, how did you find the confidence and conviction to talk about what you do? Like, kind of like what we do in our intros of like, hi, I'm Lauren, I'm Rachael, and this is what I am, this is what I do. This question specifically was regarding like, I can't find the language to speak about my niche or explain what I do to other people. And I thought it would be an interesting discussion for us because we even struggle with it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's always changing. We're always iterating on this.
Yep, and bullying each other.
Like people call it like your elevator pitch or your one line kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that succinct, but I do think it is a helpful practical skill to be able to quickly explain to someone in simple, plain language what you do.
Yeah.
In case they are curious and they might want to learn more. Like instead of having one of those like word salad artist statements where you're like, what?
Yeah. I kind of feel like mine's like that. I struggle with this too. I think this is a great question. And I struggle with this because I'm not succinct. I am not good at explaining things briefly because I feel like so many of my ideas are layered and like my big umbrella is play, but what I'm actually doing is like healing your inner child and helping you identify the things that light you up and help you live a creative life and a fulfilling life by changing your mindset about things. But like, how do I say all of that And what I say is prioritize play, because like ultimately that's what it kind of boils down to. And that statement resonates maybe with more people. But I think how to gain the confidence in doing it is like literally practice saying it.
Yeah.
Like
in
if
front
you,
of a small group and then a bigger group.
yeah, if you listen to our intros over the course of the 2.5 seasons, my intro changed almost every time. I used to not be able to call myself an artist. I used to not be able to call myself a creativity coach. I even brought it to my therapist. We should start doing it. How many times has Rachael referenced our therapist on the podcast? Don't worry, Kristle, I won't make you do that count. It's every episode. And I was like, I feel like what I'm doing is coaching, but that feels cringy. And she's like, okay, so why do you feel like it's cringy? And I'm like, because there's a lot of people who are like rich white women that say I'm a life coach and there's no training. It's just like, oh, okay, so you had enough money to do all the things that you wanted to do. And that was like what I was associating with coach, when there are plenty of coaches that are doing really good work. And like what I am doing is being an encouraging person and challenging people's beliefs about themselves. Like that's coaching. Like if you think about it from a sports analogy, Dennis Rodman, Phil Jackson, that's what it is. And so I literally had to kind of think about like, why don't I feel comfortable saying this? Part of it is because I didn't feel valid in that title. And part of it is that like, oh, I have this like connotation of cringy, people that are manipulating people or taking advantage of people.
You don't want to be associated with the bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just practice. Like at first, like you said, doing it in person. Like I workshopped it with you a million times.
Yeah.
And then I've talked about it in therapy for so long about not being able to call myself an artist because I didn't go to art school. So like, how could I possibly be an artist? We're all artists, to be clear. And then, saying it when I met new people, or saying it when I taught a workshop, and saying it on the podcast. Like now that I've practiced saying it so many times, I feel very comfortable. It's like when we first did our intro, it took us so many times to be able to even say what we wanted to say. And now it's just in our heads.
Yeah. I also think that, the confidence and conviction part of, saying what you do comes from having done the thing over and over again. And
Yeah.
so a base level like competence in like you've done the things that you teach about the same way that I've done the things I teach about. I would never teach about something that I don't know or haven't done myself. And so if let's say you're having a hard time saying that like I run like a boutique stationery company and we do retail and wholesale, it's very objective. It's just like it's not even like if you're struggling with the confidence part, I would just write down all the things you have done like creatively, and then you're like, oh, these are just facts, and then you can say them or craft a statement that you're like, oh, yeah, I do run a stationery business, or I am a muralist. If you've painted one mural, you can call yourself a muralist.
Yeah.
And that's all it really comes down to is like, have you done the thing that you're calling yourself?
Yeah.
And I think the conviction comes too from practice.
Yeah. And refining that statement. And like, I remember when I visited you in New York when you were in culinary school, and we were walking down the street, and that YouTube guy stopped us and asked us about our outfits. And we had just had a conversation about me like feeling comfy enough calling myself a creative. And he was like, what do you do? Tell me about your outfit. And I was like, I'm a creative. And then I like couldn't say anything else. And then I was like, I like help people with their mental health, but like as it relates to style. And it was like very clunky. But the fact of me like the act of me stumbling through that gave me the confidence to like, okay, actually, let's refine it so that when this question comes up again, I don't stumble over my words.
Yeah, or you can even set up a framework where you're like, I'm going to workshop a couple different things. So like rotate what you call yourself, and like it's like trying on clothes. You have to try it on, see how it feels. If you're like, oh, like asking yourself maybe whether it's you don't feel like you are quote unquote good enough to claim a title and talk about what you do, or if it's from the perspective that Rachael was talking about where you're like, well, like this term technically refers to what I do, but I don't relate to like some of the connotations around it.
Mm-hmm.
Try it on, see how it feels, and like it might feel fine.
Mm-hmm.
It actually might be the most succinct way to like explain to people what you do. Like there was a lot of discourse in like the design world a couple years ago. I feel like if like, oh, like once lockdown happened, people were like, is design being a designer like my only identity marker? Like, and people were like, no, like you're more than just a designer. And like, of course, but like there's nuance in saying like I'm a designer. It doesn't have to be your whole personality.
Yeah.
You have the skill set of a designer,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just the easiest. That's how we talk. That's just
And
the
if
easiest way.
if that's how you want people to know you, like if you are talking about yourself to people that you're pitching your work to, and you want to say, I'm a designer, I make these things, great. If you're on a date,
Yeah.
you could say, I'm a designer so that they know, but you could also say like, I'm a really good cook. You know, like you get to choose which labels apply at which points in your life. And we've talked about, obviously, I would not say that. Is that why you're laughing?
I'm laughing because if I asked someone on a date, what do you do? And they said, I'm a really good cook, my brain automatically goes unemployed.
Oh my gosh, I would be like, yes, I love that you answered the question in the non-traditional way. Yeah, that's incredible.
I'd be like, it's okay to say you're not working right now.
In between jobs.
I'm kidding, of course.
Yeah. But it's funny because like anytime people ask me what I do, I try to not have that gut reaction of like, what's my job title? And we've talked about labels and when I think that was one of my favorite episode titles, like get the goo gone. We're peeling back labels because it's important to have them to help people understand what we do. If you're trying to get work, if you're trying to network professionally, but it's also, I think, just as important to challenge them. And like your whole identity as a person is not tied to your job title.
Yeah.
And
the context of the rooms that you're in is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to answer the question, practice, definitely do the word salad exercise of like, I blank or I help these people with this by doing this. Like my business card says Rachael Renee, artist, creativity coach, hype gal. And I say hyping you to prioritize play for growth, creativity, and connection.
Nice.
It's not great. It doesn't say exactly what I do. I'm still working on that. But like for now, that's what's fitting right now.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. You can always get new business cards printed. I think what you could take away from this specific conversation is like, you have to do having conviction about like your mission statement or like your artist statement or like your what do you answer to the question, what do you do in a professional context is really dependent on you and your personality and like what feels like a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have become more comfortable over the last couple years. It's been like a complete like return to home where I used to struggle with even calling myself a designer, right? Until you're like, I need to make a certain amount of money or work with certain clients before I can really call myself like a designer.
Yeah.
And then once you become a designer, then it can be like the label becomes all of you and then you peel it off. And then now I'm more like, I'm just going to use these terms and like not attach a lot of meaning to it because it communicates quickly to someone who's asking. Depending on what room I'm in too, sometimes I don't even say lettering because it's too, I don't want to explain. Because I'm like, this room is not the room to explain it in.
Yeah.
I might just say like calligrapher. Or like design. I just started saying designer too. Because
she whips out her feather pen.
And so you can have a short statement, a long statement. Like you got to do, it's similar to the advice that I give with people who are just starting to price their work of like, just say the highest number that will come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Like that's the most basic.
It truly is so much just practice.
Yeah.
Like trying it and seeing if it works.
And then you charge a little bit more next time, a little bit more until you, and like you study. It's good to ask other people what they're charging too. But in general, you have to feel comfortable typing it or saying it. And similar to your artist statement, you could download 500 workbooks online right now, I'm sure, about how to write your artist statement or how to write like what you do as an online coach. And you have to figure out what will actually come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Like if someone else's formula doesn't work for you, you might have to get creative and come up with your own little weird thing.
Yeah, like what I like best is Hype Gal because I feel like that's what I do.
It's great.
And I also am working on trying to do more sort of like studio practice art projects.
Yes.
And so that's why I put that in there because it's me practicing saying I'm an artist. And Hype Gal is so much more appropriate for me. Like the language, we talked about that earlier. Like the language that I use is I want to hype you up. I want to help you feel encouraged. I don't see it as like I'm solving the problem for you. I'm like guiding you along. So, okay, I'm guiding you. I'm not a guide. Coaching is the best thing that like people can relate to. Because if I were like, I'm a hype gal, could it be like I'm a DJ or like I'm an MC?
Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah. I always have my air horn with me. So
please, God, no one be the guy who always has the air horn with him.
You know somebody does. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So practice.
Yeah.
And like, how do you want to be perceived? And like, if you feel comfy with a label, keep using it. I think your advice of like not attaching so much meaning to it is really helpful. We're all multifaceted. We have so many labels and titles.
It's been helpful for me. And like what you were saying earlier about like feeling the bristliness of embracing coach, I completely understand because, you know, coming from teaching online courses, there are a lot of grifters out there for sure. And the online coaching industry isn't always painted in the best light because anyone can say they're a coach and sell you a life transformation for $10,000.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're doing. But I was going to say is when I see someone like you who has like coach in their bio, if anyone can put coach in their bio, I tell myself, we're all adults with like discerning eyes and brains. Someone can see coach in your profile. And if it makes them write you off completely, that wasn't your person anyways.
Right.
If they see that and then they scroll just one scroll through your feed, they'll see what you're about and then they can come to their own conclusion. Like I've had to tell myself too, like people are smart.
Yeah, we have to give people credit.
I trust in my audience's like intellect and they can make their own decisions the same way I come to my own conclusions about things and people. And if they want to be here, cool. Yeah. If not, then like if that me using that word is the thing that makes someone like turned off, then like, okay.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Because it's kind of like it ties back to like the cringe thing, right? Like if the reading the word coach gives you cringe, I'm not your person. Like you haven't given me the chance to show you what I'm actually about.
Yeah, I was just talking with Kristle during lunch today about how like when it comes to dating,
I was just going to go to dating too. Okay.
Kristle thinks we should start a dating segment of the podcast.
We should.
It would be actually really fun.
Season 4.
Whoa, like a chaotic creatives, like singles meetup.
Oh my God. Yeah. Speed dating where we invite a bunch of people and we speed date on the podcast.
Whoa. But I was going to say like, in general, like I don't need someone who is like an internet person.
Yeah.
Or who even is like a creative entrepreneur. Like I don't need that. But what I need is I don't think I could do well with a partner who was like so anti-social media. Like I understand the critiques. Don't get me wrong. But if someone like, because of what I do and how I run my business, if someone was like so offline and so like salty about being online that I don't want it to cause friction in our dynamic. And so it relates to what we were just talking about because if someone is like, oh, like coach or like, oh, like if there's so much weight on that one term, and I think we're not doing ourselves any favors by just thinking that one word doesn't carry everything. People have to like evaluate us based on so many other factors. And like, there are so many ways that like I feel endeared to someone online versus not like, and we're human. Like even someone like your favorite rando online who you actually don't know, but you follow them, you like their work. They're going to be cringy sometimes and that's okay.
Yeah. I think about this a lot, especially as I'm paying attention to when other people are sharing their offerings. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't have said that. Yeah. And then I'm like, good for them.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't bother me.
Like I remember one time I posted one of those like POV videos because that was like a very popular format.
Yeah.
I still like them. And right after I posted it, I was scrolling through like my newsfeed and someone that I admire was like, can we stop it with the POV videos? And I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then I was like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yep.
And because she followed me too, I was like, oh no, she's going to think I'm not cool.
Yeah.
But it's like,
we're all just trying shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I love this. I love this conversation. This episode is sponsored by Dress for Yourself, a 3-part style course by me, Rachael Renee. In Dress for Yourself, I share how exploring my personal style helped me to show up as my authentic self. And in the course, you'll learn how to use personal style to build confidence, how to define your personal style, and how to incorporate play into your wardrobe. Visit rachaelrenee.com. That's RACHAELRENAE.com/style course to sign up.
Do you have any other questions on your list that tie into the ones we've been already talking
A
about?
little bit. Yeah. There's one about how to break free of rejection sensitivity.
Is that like a clinical term or that just like like being scared to be rejected in general?
Maybe. I guess I've seen a couple people that I follow talk about rejection therapy, as in like, and not rejection like I hate you, you're terrible, but just like you ask me to dinner, I say no, you don't take it personally. Like that's rejection therapy, like putting yourself out there and getting practice in being rejected in like a very normal way, because it's also helping other people feel comfortable say no to you. And so how I guess I'm interpreting this question, and I did abbreviate when I wrote them down, so I maybe misrepresenting the question, but like how to break free from rejection sensitivity. I am interpreting that as like, how do I, it's kind of like tying into the cringe thing, right? Like if I post something and I feel so strongly about it and then it's not well received, how do I break free from that? I guess it's kind of like what we've been talking about. Do you have any other insight with that like slight shift in language?
It's like fear of rejection.
Mhm.
I think it's a completely human thing to be fearful of rejection because no one wants to be ostracized from the tribe.
Yeah.
I think it is another one of those like cost of admission things for sharing your work or putting yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get the thing you want, you have to risk the chance for rejection. And I mean, I was just talking with Kristle about this with she's judging the Type Directors Club show right now.
Cool.
And I did it a couple years ago, and we were just talking about the process. And it is, and I was telling her, like, from the outside looking in for like design award shows, it's a very mysterious process. But I've judged a decent amount of shows in my life now, and being on the other side, like being in the judging room, you're like, and you see how the sausage gets made, you're like, oh, this is actually just like a bunch of regular people just having a discussion. There's so many silly reasons, like little reasons why something doesn't get awarded. Maybe one person on the panel feels really strongly that it should or shouldn't, and we have a discussion. But there are so many factors why someone might reject you or your work. If we're talking about this through a creative lens of like, I'm scared to put my work out there or to pitch myself or to reach out or go for an opportunity, apply for a grant because I'm worried about being rejected. It does tie into what you were saying of like, don't let the fear of rejection stop you from trying, because you will gain so many valuable skills from just putting yourself out there that eventually someone will say yes. And sometimes you only need a couple yeses to really get yourself going.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is like tying it back to dating. There are so many parallels. And maybe it's just because it's a thing that we're both doing right now.
Yeah.
But if you go on a date and you are presenting the most palatable version of yourself to appease that person and get them to like you, you might succeed in doing that. And then you might have to shed that mask or like let your weird self come out eventually. And then that person is not gonna be ready for that because you have presented a different version of
Mhm.
yourself. And so I've seen some folks talking about dating online where it's like you want to show the most authentic version of yourself from the beginning so that you are rejected by the people that are not your people.
You want like an early quiet rejection.
Yeah, just like have it be a bad first date or like a not even a bad first date, but maybe it's a first date where you're like, oh yeah, great guy, not interested. And that's better to know earlier. And the more that you can lean into being truly yourself, whether it's on a date or with your work, the faster you'll weed out the people that aren't your people.
Yeah, it is very much like matchmaking because I've always thought about it like for me, like cursing was a big one where, early Instagram days with lettering, there were a lot of like Bible letterers
Mhm.
and cool, do that.
If that's your thing, great.
Yeah. There were a lot of people who were lettering stuff too that was just like anything that was like, what's the word? Public domain, like fair use phrases to letter was always safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bible verses fall into that category. But there was a period of time, it doesn't happen so much anymore because I'm not 100% lettering, but people would be upset when I cursed and let me know, which I always found so silly because I don't curse that much, which is maybe why it catches some people off guard. But there was a moment where I was like, oh, should I like change my behavior to like appease my audience? Because it's like, it's not like, doesn't matter that much to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was talking with my dad about it, and I actually think that it does weed out the people that are going to have a problem later down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I've always likened it, I think the food analogy that I've used in the past is like, think about the people who unfollow you or don't follow you as the raisins in your trail mix that you didn't want anyways.
Yeah.
I don't like raisins in my trail mix. Some people love raisins in their trail mix, and this is nothing about raisins. Raisins are just my thing.
Yeah.
Okay? Replace raisins with anything that you don't like in the trail mix. When you eat trail mix, what's the stuff that's left in the bottom of the bag?
Yeah.
Whatever that is for you. We are in charge of like curating our own trail mix, basically, by being ourselves. We're trying to attract only people who are excited about the stuff we're excited about. And, you can't please everybody. And so but you have to, like you said, present as authentically as you can. Like the way I've always said it is like how you text your friends is likely the tone you should be taking. If just so you don't have to do so much mental calibration too for like, how do I word this? Like, think about like how people talk about, we were just talking about this at the beginning, your corporate version of yourself where you're like cosplaying is what you think you need to be professional.
Yeah.
We try to do that sometimes, and it's so exhausting when going online, presenting ourselves online. Like, I should act this way on Instagram, where actually the easiest way to share on Instagram is to just share how you would normally share, and then you don't have to think about it so much, and people who aren't into it will leave, and that's a good thing. I know it's tough, like seeing your follower count go down or like not gaining a lot of followers, but I think you'd rather have people there who are into what you're doing and engaged than like just a big number.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I have 3 things to respond to.
Yes.
Number
I'm so
1,
sorry.
I'm giggling. No, it's not. Don't apologize. I'm giggling, or I was giggling because I was thinking about what is my favorite thing in the trail mix. And it would just end up with just like peanut M&Ms. Like there's no healthy stuff in there. It's just the M&Ms part. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I should, I like the nuts too, but I'm going for the chocolate first.
But peanut M&Ms have the peanut inside.
You're right. So it is. Peanut M&Ms are technically trail mix.
Yeah.
Number 2, I think I also want to clarify, because I think we talked about it before we started recording, that both of us still feel this fear of like, this is going to be cringe.
Yep.
And like you said, the cost of admission, like it's just something that we have to acknowledge as part of the process. Like, ooh, this is going to be embarrassing, or like, oh my gosh, why am I talking about depression on the internet? Like sometimes we share things, a lot of times, and it's like, huh, was that the wrong decision? But then trusting ourselves that like, okay, I think this is valuable. And if someone else finds it valuable, that's why I'm doing it. So we both feel that fear never goes away.
Yes, it never goes away.
The confidence may raise,
you just get more comfortable too.
Yeah.
Every time you do something where you're like, you blast past your fear of rejection and share it anyways, or you blast past your fear of being cringy and share it anyways, you slowly build a tolerance to that feeling and it makes it a little bit easier. I think we were kind of talking about it like, what were we saying before?
We always do this where we're like,
oh,
okay, we're going to talk about
I
this,
know.
this, and this. And then we have really good
Oh,
insights.
yeah. Because one question that we got that is related to this was like, how do you connect with your audience? Which we thought was a little broad, but which is why we chose the ones that we did. But it relates to like when you share stuff that you genuinely feel like sharing, what's on your heart, what's on your mind. There will be people who are like, that's weird, or like, that's not for me. But connecting with your audience doesn't mean getting a bunch of comments that say, oh my God, I love this. That's just like surface level stuff. Connecting with your audience oftentimes looks like, even if you have a tiny audience and you share a piece of artwork about your depression or about how like you were struggling with, after you lost your job or something. Connection looks like one person DMing you going, hey, thanks for sharing that. Like I really needed that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think connection is behind the scenes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's people messaging you or talking to you and saying like, this meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Or even like a lighter touch of like them saving your post in one of their like, think about this later folders on Instagram. The
or
save
sharing
folders.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I made a post around Christmas time and I remember this because my Christmas tree is in the video. And it's like, hey, this is just a reminder that like, you don't actually have to sell your creative work. It can just be a fulfilling hobby. And that thing has been shared so many times. And it was just like, I was in a good mood. I had a cute outfit on. And I was like, hey, because I had just come from my ceramic studio sale where I didn't really have that much for sale. And I felt great. I just like wandered around and looked at everybody else's stuff. And it was fun. And so I was like, hey, we don't have to do this. It can just be for us. And I think that enthusiasm and that like me really feeling it resonated with a lot of people. And so like having people find me through that, like that's connection.
Yeah.
It's just talking about the things that feel important to you in the moment. I'm very much a person who I'm not good at like batching my content and like making a bunch of stuff. Like I'm very feelings based and I share based on what I'm going through or thinking about in the moment or a couple days before or after,
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the timeliness of that makes it authentic as well.
Agreed.
And it allows you not to overthink it too much because you're like, this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, exactly. We are at about an hour. Do we want to stop and maybe do an official break from Q&A?
Yeah, I think that you can tune into the next episode to hear us talk about some of the other questions that we got. Because we got one related to what you were just talking about of like, how do I explain that I don't want to sell my creative work when people go, oh my gosh, these are amazing, you should sell them? Tune in next time for the answer to that question and like 8 more.
Yeah, we've got some fun ones. But we'll get them done.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Wait.
Oh, what?
We got to plug Patreon.
Oh my gosh, yes. We had to market ourselves.
See, we're doing the thing that people ask us questions about of how do you blast past the fear of being cringe about promoting yourself. We don't love doing this, but we're going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Because before we started recording, I was telling Rachael, like, I have had the realization that like, oh, I am my own hype man. Like, there's no one else who's going to do it as someone who is self-employed, unless I want to hire like a part-time social media manager, which I don't. I've tried in the past and it just doesn't feel quite right for me. It's me. So I have to plug my stuff and like let people know who want to support us and want to support me. And so if you like this episode, please share it with a friend, someone who needs to hear the answer to one of these questions in this episode. And if you have any spare cash, you can support us with the Patreon link in our show notes. We do bonus content, some more Q&As if you want to ask us like a very specific question. I think we'll be doing more of these, and you can get discounts to me and Rachel's courses. Anything else?
That was great. You didn't have to do anything. I just got to watch.
I didn't feel that hard. I was the one who actually resisted us starting a Patreon because there's something about the perpetual subscription thing that's always never felt great to me. So I've never even done it in my own business. However, Rachael and Kristle lovingly nudged me and were like, why don't we just give it a try? So we're trying it. And now I can say that. We've done it a couple times. It doesn't feel that bad. So if that's any...
It's not, because we also, like, we aren't coercing people like,
no.
Oh, you want to get this?
Agency?
Too bad.
You can shut this off right now.
Yeah. Yeah. We're not like, only the good stuff is behind the paywall. You know, like, we offer so much for free, and we will continue to do so because we believe in what we're talking about and we have fun doing this. And it costs money to produce these episodes. So we are trying to recoup those costs.
We'd love if you could support us. Are we selling like listener-sponsored ads yet?
It's probably one of the tiers in the Patreon.
Yeah. We think that one of the tiers in the Patreon is...
It will be by this episode.
We have a mega tier, which isn't even that mega, for instead of getting... In the interim, before we get like big ad sponsors, we were thinking it'd be fun to like have listener supported ads of like, tell us what projects you're working on. Like, do you have a workshop coming up? Do you have an online course? Do you have a market you're selling at? Do you have an online shop? We'll do like listener supported ad reads because it's like chaotic creative for chaotic creative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. The chaotic creative classifieds.
Ooh, I love that. That has to be our newsletter.
Yeah.
Not that we have a newsletter, but maybe by this episode we will.
So here's the thing about us being chaotic creatives. We're recording all of season 3 before Lauren moves back to New York. So we're recording a little bit sooner than, when the Patreon officially launches.
So if you hear any of the hesitation in our voices or us looking back and forth at each other,
did we say we would do that? And that's chaotic creative for you. So join the Patreon if you want to, and we'll see you next time for the rest of the Q&A. Bye.